Good afternoon, NICOLA.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. I think that I did my entire speech on mute and it was recorded. So I just want to say good afternoon to my guests. Good afternoon once again to another episode of Futsal868 Corner Talks. And with us for this episode 43, where we do part 2 of Women in Futsal, to continue the celebration of International Women's Day, is Ms. NICOLA ZAMMIT, who is the Tours and Events Manager for the Australian Futsal Association. So we welcome again, NICOLA. As I was asking you the question, is afternoon here in Trinidad and Tobago. What time is it by you in Australia?
At 6 a.m. on Monday, yeah.
On Monday. I want to thank you very much for the sacrifice in terms of
I think we had a bit of a technical issue there. I couldn't hear you again.
My sincerest apologies. Technology, it happens. We have been having some bad weather and that affected the internet. So, NICOLA, let's start over again. Thank you very much for joining us. And so tell us a little bit about yourself and your work in futsal.
Yes, certainly. I started my time in futsal as a player back in 1992 when I started playing for my local school competition. And then from there, I absolutely loved the sport and continued on and got employment within the sport as well. I've been lucky enough to travel to a few countries and for work and futsal, as well as a player, as a coach and whatnot. So I've been involved in the sport for over a couple of decades now and absolutely loving it. I'm a little bit different. I started playing futsal before I started playing outdoor soccer or football. which is a little bit different over here. Normally they'll do football first and then they'll play futsal after that.
So how was that? How did that happen? How did it come about for you? How was that different to the normal children in Australia?
Yeah, certainly. I never had a passion for football or outdoor soccer. I came from a netball and a hockey background, and then I moved states and landed at the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. And basically my science teacher asked if I'd like to fill in for a team of futsal. And I said, yeah, why not? And went down and played a couple of games and then really enjoyed it. And it wasn't until probably the following year that I actually joined a football club.
They always said once you interact with that ball, it's very hard to turn back. Was that true for you?
Yes, definitely. I loved that everybody basically got to touch the ball. It was so quick and there was no sort of hiding or having a rest on the court, whereas when I started playing football, touches were sort of few and far between because I played in the back line and we had a decent sort of team, so the ball didn't quite come down to me as much as it could have. So I got a lot more touches in futsal, so maybe that's where my enjoyment for futsal started.
Tell us, as regards to your position as tours and events manager for the Australian Futsal Association, as well as give us a little bit of background as regards to the AFA.
Yes, certainly. So my role in Australian Futsal is running major events, which we have 2 national events each year in Australia, the National Club Championships and also the National Schools Championships, which are 2 separate events which do have different players that actually participate in those events. And those events, the National Club Championships is actually coming up in a few weeks in Sydney. Touch wood, all the COVID restrictions and everything permit us to do that. And the National School Championships, players are getting selected at the moment for that all around Australia from their particular states. They're playing in their competitions at the moment, and then they'll gain selection through those into their state teams, and then they'll come to the National School Championships at the end of the year. So they're the 2 major events we hold. And then we hold probably about 10 to 15 other smaller events around the country. So we're quite busy, and it just depends on, with all the COVID restrictions at present, we've been quite lucky in Australia where we haven't had COVID hit us as bad as some of the other countries have. So we're quite fortunate with that. We do have restrictions here, and movement around the country is somewhat limited. However, it is opening up more and more each day.
So tell us, can you give us an idea as regards to the relationship for AFA? What is AFA's relationship to futsal? When persons think of the Australian Futsal Association, what do you want them to get?
Yes, certainly. We want to be known as an inclusive association for female participants as well as male. We want to be inclusive of all ages and all genders, and also we do cater for disabled athletes as well. So we do hold events for disability players as well. So we really just want to be known as inclusive for everybody from grassroots all the way up to elite.
How many clubs does AFA boast of, and in how many districts throughout Australia do you all exist?
Yes, certainly. We hold over 70 clubs around Australia with AFA, and we're in 6 of the 7 states in Australia.
Okay, that's quite extensive. And before we go up to the question of equality and equity when it comes to men and women, tell us, as regards to your relationship, the AFA's relationship with the national governing body for football in Australia?
Yes, certainly. We don't have a very strong relationship with Australian football at present. We're trying to work on that, and hopefully in the future that can be something that can be achieved down the track. In Australia at the moment, football is seen as the dominant sport, and with futsal, it's pretty much a training sort of tool or program for players within the football sort of competitions. So it's hard to get the mindset changed, as you can imagine. I'm sure other countries are very, very similar, with probably the exception of Brazil, where everybody sort of struggles with futsal becoming part of the national body.
But in looking at your website and doing some research as regards to AFA, I was very much impressed with what I saw. The number of clubs, the number of districts that you all serve, the number of boys and girls, men and women that you all serve when it comes to growing the sport of futsal. I would not necessarily say single-handedly, but the commitment that you all have to doing such. With that being said, let's look at the number of boys and girls that you all have within the organization, as well as the makeup, the composition of male, females when it comes to the executive board, as well as the working board, the working organization, that working part of the organization. Can you speak more to that?
Yes, certainly. So we're quite lucky that we run and hold female teams and competitions quite regularly, which is we're quite fortunate of. So in Australia, a national event that we've got coming up, as I mentioned, in a few weeks, we actually have under 10-year-old girls playing in that event, and we have a number of other age groups all the way up to open women playing in that event. So we're probably about 70% are male orientated, with about 30% participation from our females at our major events. So that's quite lucky. However, in our club system, we do struggle with female competitions outright. So a lot of our female teams will play in a male competition or in the local club competitions. We just don't have the female numbers at present, which we are trying to rectify by running individual female programs, which we're getting a lot of success with. We held one in Brisbane recently where we had over 80 female participants join from the ages of 8 to 14. And then we had another 50 participants from the ages up from that. So we are trying in each state to bring more female-only competitions and programs. However, it is a slow process, but we'll hopefully gain some momentum in the coming years.
Yeah. And tell me, as regards to the composition of persons working with and for the AFA when it comes to men and women.
Yes, certainly. In our organisation, the females actually are more than the males in our workforce for us. We have a lot of female administrators, and it's probably, to be honest, about a 70-30 ratio if we're looking for numbers in the AFA workforce, where females are dominant over the male workers.
That is actually impressive. We're going to take our very first break. You're watching Futsal 868 Corner Talks, and when we return, we're going to speak more to NICOLA ZAMMIT, who is actually on Monday. For us in Trinidad and Tobago, it's still Sunday. We want to say thank you very much, NICOLA, for taking the time for spending with us. You are watching Futsal 868. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Futsal868 Corner Talks. And we started off a little bit shaky as regards to some technical issues. But once again, we're here and we are happy to be here. With joining us from Australia is NICOLA ZAMMIT, Events and Tours Manager for the Australian Futsal Association. And before the break, she was speaking, telling us a little bit as regards to the composition of males and females in the organization of the AFA, noting that what we just saw was clearly the backbone of Futsal Association of Trinidad Tobago in terms of our General Secretary, Miss Corinne Cecilia David, and members of our team, Sophia Sylvester, Irene Marquez, Jarrell Gordon, all these ladies who have worked assiduously to ensure that we are a success in every form and fashion. So again, NICOLA, I want to say thank you very much for joining us. And I want to delve directly and specifically as regards to how is the AFA going to deal with the strategies that you all are going to employ to increase the number of female futsal players on the country of Australia?
Yeah, certainly. So in Australia, a lot of our female participations are coming through our school system over here. Our schools are quite lucky that they are allowed to go and play in events away from the school. And through that program, we're getting more and more girls trying futsal because they don't have to play in a weekly competition yet or anything like that. They just need to come away and represent their school and have a try of futsal, which is exactly what we want. So once we can see if they like the game of futsal, then we can move forward from that and offer any of our other programs that we run, whether it be a club competition, whether it be a girls only academy, whether it be just a girls come down and do a training program and just seeing how they go and whether they do want to go any further. A lot of our players may just want to, a lot of our female players, may just want to come down and have a go at first. Obviously, we all know the struggles with female participants playing sport, where they may be a little bit shy or they may be not a little bit nervous that they can't kick the ball as good as somebody else. So we try to include all sorts of levels in our programs and split our programs up so that all the different levels have various different ways of progressing through. We don't want to put somebody that's just a new beginner in with somebody that's a little bit more advanced than those. So we really do try to split our programs around the country, making sure that we do cater for everybody and all sorts of levels as well. So our schools program is one of our main programs that we would like to include the female participants to come through. And then from there, we also like to have relationships with football clubs and offer those football clubs to come in after the season's finished and have their female participants go through some of our programs, whether it be a club competition on a weekly structure or whether it be a girls program where they just come in and have a go and do various other skills, not just kicking a futsal ball or anything like that. We also do a kindy program over here, which is predominantly aged for kids between 3 and 6. So the really, really young kids that we try to bring in to just have an understanding of futsal and see what it's actually about. So they're the sorts of programs we'd like to run. And moving forward, we'd like to do them on a lot larger scale nationally.
That is totally amazing. I am very much impressed with what you all are doing when it comes to female inclusivity, because it's very important to be able to have that gender balance. I go straight into your position as regards to the tours and events manager. Can you give us a description of what does that entail? Can you tell us what you do exactly at the AFA?
Yes, certainly. So basically, I'm in charge of running the events for our association annually, and they include small events to larger events, and also events similar to the Masters Games, which is coming up this year, which is a major event that they hold on the Gold Coast, where with international participants coming along to that. I'm not sure how that's going to go with COVID restrictions this year. However, events like that, I basically run all of those sorts of things with obviously my staff. And we, sorry, I lost the chain of thought there. And we move around nationally. So we will go to different states to help run events there, as well as other programs as well. We've just set up a club in ACT. So we're off there shortly to help them run a female participation sport day there. So that's something that we can look forward to. And I basically oversee sending away all our representative teams to these events. So the national championships, which I mentioned coming up in a couple of weeks in Sydney, we'll be moving up to 1,000 athletes around Australia to that event. And that'll include everything from putting them onto aeroplanes to accommodation, food, clothing, bus transportation to and from games, and making sure they're all looked after and with the right coaches and managers in place. So that's basically my role, sort of in a nutshell.
That is totally impressive as regards to what it is you do, and really and truly female power. Hats off to you in terms of the amount of things that you do and able to accomplish. What was the number you just mentioned there? Did I hear correctly? Was it 1,000?
Yeah, up to 1,000 players we're going to be moving in the next couple of weeks.
That is impressive, NICOLA, and I must congratulate you on the job that you're doing. And as I said before, we looked at your social media pages, and the work that you do for you in terms of the position that you hold is really and truly impressive. As a female, tell us your challenges in working in the sport of futsal, if there's any.
Yes, certainly. Just going back 1 second, obviously, I have a lot of staff that help me with all those programs, and a lot of them are female staff. And without them, we wouldn't get to being able to move the people in the success that we can and have achieved in the past. But moving on to the question you just asked, in my earlier days working in the association, it was very dominated by males. However, I think that is slowly starting to swing a little bit. I do find that when we do go internationally, that there are a lot of males in the higher positions overseas, which I totally understand. However, in the last couple of years, I think that is starting to change a little bit now as well. More and more females are becoming more administrators, both nationally and internationally. And that's the sort of push that myself and everybody else at AFA love to see, that more and more females are getting involved in the sport, whether it be playing, administrators, or high level part of the association, which is great. I did attend an international event in 2013, which was very, very male dominated. However, in saying that, they were lovely. I have never had an issue representing Australia overseas or even nationally, to be honest, with anything like that. It's I've been lucky enough to have some great people that I work with and that I've met along the way.
The tagline for International Women's Day 2021 was, or is, because we're still celebrating it, choose to challenge. What would you like to challenge being a woman in futsal?
That's a good question. I would like to challenge a lot more females to take up administration roles or playing roles or whatever they want to do within the game of futsal, whether it be they just want to come and volunteer and help out at a local competition, or whether they want to come and do something more than that. I would challenge all the females to just put your hand up and come out and see what the game's about, and also see if you can get a career in the sport as well. There are various other countries around the world that that females do hold positions within the game of futsal.
But many may say that, why would I go to a game that is up and coming, such as futsal, when there are established games such as football, or even cricket, or netball, swimming, that Australia is so great at? Why futsal, NICOLA?
Personally, I think that once they come and have a try, whether they're playing or watching, they will fall in love with it. It's such a fast game. That's what happened to me. It was just so fast and energetic, and you just couldn't look away because there was something happening, whether the goalkeeper's taking a save or whether somebody's defending, or whether the ball's gone out and it's coming back in very quick concession. It's just a game that's just so fast that it's a spectator sport, I think, personally. And in Australia, we're lucky we have so many different sports that we can go and watch or participate in. And I think more and more people are looking for games that are indoors in Australia. With our weather conditions here, gets quite extreme hot here. And especially in the summer months, it gets quite warm, which is, so I think people will just come and fall in love with our game that we all love.
That is brilliant in terms of how you put in, from a SWOT analysis standpoint, the strengths that futsal can use to be able to attract new persons to the sport. As we speak about SWOT analysis, how has COVID-19, the pandemic, which has affected us globally, how has it positively affected the sport of futsal, if any at all, and also AFA's execution of its strategic plans?
I'm not sure about the positiveness of the COVID, how that's affected futsal, especially in Australia, as well as obviously overseas. We all had to take a break from playing the game for a little while, as I can imagine every other country has as well. We've had a few events that have been rescheduled, and we're extremely looking forward to that. I guess the positive parts of that is we've had teams training for a longer period of time to what they normally would, to then come away to our national events. So I think the skill level at our national events will actually improve as well, because they've had so many more training sessions and so many more chances to progress and get stronger before they go to a national event sort of thing, which I think will be a positive influence on the level of the game, as well as taking it to that next level.
Well, definitely. As regards us here in Trinidad and Tobago, the COVID-19 was very much devastating, to say the least. But as an organization, again, led by General Secretary Ms. Corey Cecilia David, totally fitting to pivot. And in pivoting, one of the things that came out of it is Futsal868 Corner Talks, which allows us now to speak to you. And for us, we turned, what many may consider a glass that's half empty, our perspective turned to a glass that's half full, and being able to make lemonade out of lemons when it comes to ensuring that we continue to build the brand, network, and grow the sport of futsal in Trinidad and Tobago. And just what you said is very important, because when it comes to our men's national futsal team, they had an opportunity to have a longer period to train in preparation for the FIFA World Cup qualifiers, which will be held, the CONCACAF version of it will be held in May the 39th. So you're quite correct as regards to that, and I must acknowledge you in taking that very hard question and seeing the positive in it, because at all times it's all about finding the positive, and when it comes to who we are and what we do. In speaking to positives, what are some of the positives that you get being a manager of AFA?
The positives I get, I love seeing the little kids come through our programs and progressing all the way up to maybe making the national team for the men and the women sort of thing. I've known some of the players in those teams since they were 12 years age, coming through the various systems that were in place back in those days. And it's those sorts of things that you see, their personal growth as well as their growth with playing the sport. as well. And some of the players have gone on to play in a high-level sports as well, whether it be futsal or football. A lot of the football players around Australia have had some sort of influence from futsal, which is great to see as well. We've got staff members, children playing in our national football competitions over here. We've got ex-staff members playing in our female football competition, national competitions over here. And it's great to see those players come through the systems, and then whether they stay with the game of futsal or whether they go to another sport, I'm okay with that. I just love to see that they're growing and they're progressing and they're on track for bigger and better things, whether it be with our sport or whether it be with another sport. We've had players go from playing futsal to going to the AFL, the Australian Football League, which I'm sure you probably don't know a huge amount about. It's only played in Australia, the AFL, but we've had players from futsal go to that as well.
I definitely know about the AFL. Trust and believe. Mr. Mario Zanon definitely made us aware of the AFL and its difference between Aussie rules and rugby. So I definitely know what the AFL is about.
Excellent. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so I just love to see the people coming through, whether it be the little kids kicking a ball around with the shirts that are too big because they're so little, or whether that's the females going to the nationals, and whether it's my home state of Queensland winning a female age group, or whether it be a female age group from another state that's winning. I just love to see that, and the camaraderie that it actually brings together teams as well. It's quite special to watch in those high clutch moments when they're at a national event and everything's on the line and they all come together, and it's great.
So before we take one last question, before we go to another break, tell us, where do you see yourself in AFA within the next 5 years?
Oh, that's a good question. I hope to see myself within the sport still, and with the COVID restrictions and COVID pandemic easing, hopefully, and everything coming under control, I hope to see us up and traveling the world and possibly even going to Trinidad and Tobago as well. That would be amazing. It looks like a lovely country to go visit. So I'm sure we would have some people that would love to go out there and see the country and play some futsal and things like that. I'd love to see the female participation increase within my time at the sport as well. Obviously, everybody has an expiration date. I hope mine's not coming up too soon, because I do think that I have a lot more to give to the sport as well. So I hope to see myself in 5 years within the sport still.
And I wish you not just 5 years, but I also wish you actually 20 plus more years in the sport of futsal, because what you're doing is phenomenal, to say the least. But we're going to take a quick break, Nicola, and we'll be right back where we discuss some strategies that you can share with other persons, other organizations looking in, noting that the Caribbean region is very young when it comes to futsal, and what you all are doing. I mean, moving 1,000 persons to a tournament, that's amazing. So think about it. We want to know how you do it, and how can you share some of that valuable knowledge to us so that we can help grow the sport of futsal here in the Caribbean. You're watching Futsal868 Corner Talks with Nicola, who's in Australia. We'll be right back, taking this message from our General Secretary, Ms. Corinne Cecilia David.
For International Women's Day 2021 can be described as unique, if only because of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let us take this opportunity to celebrate the exceptional and irreplaceable nature of the woman in our lives. Michelle Obama once proclaimed that there is no limit to what we as women can accomplish. I urge you to be the best woman that you can be at all times. Amanda Gorman declared in her spoken word poetry, The Hill We Climb, "For while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us." I hope we take the opportunity to find that power within ourselves to author that new chapter as we rewrite her story.
That was our General Secretary, Miss Corinne Cecilia David, who, as she succinctly said, history has her eyes on us. And Nicola, definitely, history has her eyes on you. And we congratulate you and applaud you in what you're doing when it comes to developing the sport of futsal in Australia. Kudos and hats off to you and your team for the magnificent and wonderful job. And we pray that you continue to get the strength to do such. So with that being said, please help us understand what we can do. Give us some suggestions as regards to what we can do to grow the sport of futsal in Trinidad and Tobago and by extension, the Caribbean region.
Yeah, certainly. I think one of the key things to do is start off small. A lot of people want to start off really big and have all the top elite things going first. In what I've found from previous experience is we start at the grassroots and we have small little groups. We don't need to go to having hundreds of players playing within a month or anything like that. I think we've got to be, sorry, I lost the kind of chain of thought there. We got to start off small and then progress up. There's no use trying to start too big and offering too much and not having the participation levels to be able to warrant those sorts of programs. So I would suggest by starting with small little programs within the local area and just whether it be once a week, coming along and getting the group together, whether it be indoors or outdoors or whether it be on a school oval or a park or whatever it may be. It doesn't need to be at an international recognised sort of indoor facility as such. Here in Australia, we run a lot of programs within our schools on the school oval or on, which is over here on grass, or whether it be on a tennis court or whether it be in an undercover concrete area. It doesn't really matter about the surface, and same with the equipment. It doesn't have to be the best balls or the best of the equipment. You just need to start off slow and start off small and then progressively get bigger. Start off with doing a little bit of skill work and then progressing to games. Obviously, kids love to play games. We all do. We're all competitive. We all want to win and we all want to score a goal or save a goal sort of thing. So we always start our programs off with skill work and it can just be short and sharp sort of drills and things like that, and then going into games and progressing from there. And then once you start at a smaller player base, then try to increase that player base, asking around at more schools or more communities, or whether you're going down to the local football club or association and just asking if anybody wants to come and have a try of futsal. It varies in different countries depending on the relationship with the football associations and clubs as well. But word of mouth will start to get out. And as you know, with the speed of futsal, younger kids love playing the game because they get to touch the ball so many times. And I just start off small little programs, and then you'll find that they'll increase, whether it be on a monthly base or whether it be in a 6 monthly base. And then the following year, your numbers would have tripled to what you first started with, sort of thing. And then just moving it around away from your local community to try to involve the others in other communities if you're able to, or trying to reach out and find a contact in another community to see if they can start, and you can maybe go up there and help them to get it started, and then they progress to where you are, and then it just keeps sort of filtering from there. And that's how it started here in Australia. We sort of just started off small, and then we just progressively getting bigger by offering and adapting programs to what actually people want as well, sort of thing. We have a big schools program over here where a lot of our schools are involved with the game of futsal. So that's quite useful as well, because a lot of kids get exposed to the game, so they know what the game is, and then they may go home and ask to be part of something more regularly, or they may not. They may just want to do that 1 or 2 days of futsal and then choose another sport or whatnot. But that's where we need to start off, I think, especially in the smaller countries and the smaller communities, and just start small and go up, whether you're starting with 2 or 3 people, whether they're your own kids or not. Word will still soon spread to come along and see what it's about at the very least. And especially with the technology these days, you can tell people to go and watch a game of futsal, go and watch the men's Brazil versus Spain or something similar to those sorts of games, where they can see just how skillful the players are at those top levels, and think maybe that's what they want to do. You just don't know what people want to do unless you offer it to them.
Most definitely. And in hearing you give suggestions, which we greatly appreciate, one of the things that I noticed is it was all athlete-centered. You focused on the athlete. So, being the devil's advocate, how can we now convince administrators who may not understand futsal, who may not be like the 5-year-old kid, the 7-year-old child who's going to put on a big t-shirt but still love that ball, because that administrator sitting down in his office or her office is not going to interact with the ball? How can we convince him or her that futsal should be played in your school, in your community, in your club?
Yes, certainly. I think the easiest way to do that is to go out and have a face-to-face conversation, which is obviously a little bit hard at the moment with the whole COVID-19 pandemic, in getting those face-to-face conversations and just explaining and showing your passion for the game, whether you can go out and to meet somebody face-to-face that's sitting in an office, or do a Zoom or another form of interaction with a group of school teachers, or whether be with football coaches or administrators. You could do the same sort of thing. Outline come together with a strategic plan of how you want to progress and how you want to actually target the particular audience that you're going to. A school teacher may be a little bit different of a target to going to a football club or a football association, where they may not want their players to play futsal, or vice versa sort of thing. Whereas I find that school teachers in Australia love for their children to be able to play anything. We have a big push in Australia on getting kids into exercise and outdoors and those sorts of things. So it's an easier sort of sell, as a lack of a better word, to get into a school and ask them if they would like to participate. When you're dealing with school teachers or principals or even soccer administrators, we can go along to their, over in Australia, we have end of season breakup things at our soccer clubs. We can go along to there and take out a soccer field, sort of a futsal sort of field, and give the kids a run with a 5x5 game, and so that they can actually see it for themselves, which is, I think, a lot of the sell is when the administrators or the principals or the teachers can actually visually see what the game is, because a lot of them still don't know what the game is, especially in the smaller countries as well. They may never have even heard of the game of futsal before. So to be honest, it's back in probably 15 years ago, we used to lead in with futsal, indoor soccer. It's an indoor soccer game in a room, basically, is where it all came from. And a lot of the teachers didn't even know the word futsal. Obviously, in Australia now, it's progressed and a lot more teachers know the word futsal. But however, overseas, it may still need that push of an actual introduction to what is futsal to start with a lot of coaches and school teachers or communities not actually knowing what the actual game is to start with. And it's hard to sell a game if you don't actually know what the game is.
You're quite correct. And I remember the very first time that an organization I was a part of decided to put on a futsal event moons ago. And we wrote to sponsors. And many of them thought that we had a typo when we spelled out futsal. And see, you are spot on with your description. You also mentioned something that I found very interesting in looking at your website. Under the Get Involved tab, you have playing, coaching, refereeing, media, volunteering, employment, and birthday parties. I think that you would have mentioned a little bit about that as regards to taking five-a-side or futsal to the community, to persons. That is amazing. That's interesting. Can you give a little more as regards to the Get tab of that is there in the AFA website, and how it is you're actually getting futsal out there? I mean, and I really want you to speak more to that birthday parties part.
Yeah, certainly. In Australia, we have a lot of children's birthday parties that are activity based, I guess is the word. So we had people contact us wanting to do their birthday party in a futsal court and play some games, and obviously generally have the music and the food and all those sort of festivities as well. But they wanted to be able to play the game, so we offered that as well as part of it. We also have a lot of female referees, which is amazing. A lot of them referee our national events as well as our local sort of events and tournaments and club competitions. We have quite an extensive amount of female referees within our association, which is amazing. We also have that volunteer tab, and that come about, to be honest, from a lot because of COVID last year with our restrictions. A lot of our events had to be differently run, shall we say. We had to rely on a lot of volunteers to help us make sure that everybody was safe at our events. So, and a lot of our volunteers are actually females, and they wanted to help, and we just didn't know how to collate all that information. So that's why we put that together, the volunteer tab, where people, if they choose to become a volunteer, it's quite simple for them as well. And we know that they're there and they're wanting to do it, because obviously, as you can imagine, all these sort of associations run on volunteers. We wouldn't run our events as successfully as we do without volunteers. It's just not possible, and we can't man everything, sort of thing. So we rely heavily on our volunteers, and we do have a great volunteer base around the country, which is extremely pleasing to sort of see and work with.
Yeah, go ahead, continue.
Sorry, I forgot the other, employment. So yes, if that was our other tab. If females are wanting to gain employment within AFA, we definitely want them to come forward and put their sort of hand up, and then obviously we do want to run female programs with predominantly female coaches as well. So it's about educating and training everybody, and depending on what role they wanted to come in the association as, whether it be a volunteer, we involve our training with those programs. Our referees programs are all educated. Our staff are all educated. Our coaches participate in various coaching courses throughout the country. Granted, a lot of that is online at the moment with the pandemic, but hopefully moving forward in the future, we can have more and more female-only coaching courses where, whether it be mums or whether it be ex-players or people that just have an interest in the game that want to get involved in coaching, we would love that to come forward. We don't have enough female coaches, to be honest, and that is something that we are looking at for the future, to get more female coaches involved, as well as doing administration as well. We don't want them just to come in and their only option is administration. We want them to be able to choose if they want to become a coach or volunteer or a referee, or just come along and help without an official role or title as such. We want anybody that wants to come and give us a hand or help and progress to come and feel welcomed and not excluded, I guess.
Totally, as regards to welcome. Now, 2 tabs down also relates to your job title. 2 tabs down is international tours, where we saw that AFA has visited, toured Chile, China, Italy, Greece, Hawaii, Malaysia, Spain, United Kingdom, and the United States of America. Tell me, of all the that I just mentioned, which tour is the most memorable for you? And from as a tour's manager, which one was somewhat the more difficult one?
Probably when I was lucky enough to take the women's team over to the AMF World Cup in 2013. That was both rewarding and challenging. Taking a team over to a male-dominated country with a lot of male officials and administration. That proved challenging at times, but a very, very rewarding event that was.
And which one was the most remarkable as regards to memorable for you of all the tours?
100% Brazil.
Short and sweet, Brazil. Tell me why.
I love the country. I've been there several times, both with work and backpacking around the country, as well as taking my daughter over there to see the sights. The people there are just amazing. They're so welcoming and lovely. The country is beautiful. I've got many friends that live there, and I just like the culture. I like the food. I like the sightseeing. I like the living. I like everything about Brazil. That's probably my most memorable trip is Brazil.
I get that. I hear that loud and clear. We hope that your trip to Trinidad and Tobago and the Caribbean can top Brazil.
I think that'll be amazing. I've seen lots and lots of photos, and the country just looks amazing.
Yeah,
I can't wait to come.
I must admit, and I saw that there. We saw what we need to do to get you there, so we definitely will be in contact with you guys as regards to doing some exchanges when it comes to Futsal868 and the AFA to be able to continue to spread the gospel of futsal globally. So definitely we'll be in your neck of the woods, and feel free to come to ours. As we wrap up, we ask all our guests, because this is the World Cup year, FIFA Futsal World Cup year. Tell me, give me your top 5 teams to look out for as regards to the World Cup.
No surprises in number 1 is, I think, Brazil will take it out.
All right.
However, I do believe that Spain and Argentina will be very, very strong, as well as Brazil and Portugal. It's going to be hard because everybody's been so restricted with the COVID-19 pandemic that we just don't know where certain countries are going to be. Maybe the strong countries, the countries that we expect to be strong won't be as strong, and maybe the less stronger countries will actually have had the time to gel and to train that little bit more and come together. Maybe they're going to be ready to take that next step to making it to a final or taking out the actual event. I think it's going to be an interesting one. I don't think it's going to be as normal or ish as what we've seen in the past with the World Cups, but I think it'd be a good one to watch, definitely, to see where everyone's at and how the COVID-19 pandemic has affected various countries as well. Will be interesting to see.
Without going through the dynamics of FIFA and AMF, and understand what's happening in background specifically to futsal, what would you say to administrators in dealing with the increase of women's futsal tournaments and competitions on a global standpoint?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would love to see either of the two major associations start to plan for a Women's World Cup, whether it be a FIFA one or whether it be an AMF one again. I think that a lot of planning needs to go into this, and it needs to happen. It needs to progress, and it needs to be here. The women are out there screaming for these sorts of events. They want to go to these events, and the skill levels there. We just need the two associations to put an event on, and these women will go and dominate. I have no doubts in that. After going to the AMF event in Colombia, it just looked amazing. The skill level of the teams that were there, the intensity of the countries that were there. I think that it's silly not to have the event. We need it. We need it for all the female participants, wherever you're playing, whoever you're playing with. They need something to aim for.
I totally agree with you. Considering that, I will always mention it. We were blessed as a country to be able to represent at the 2018 Youth Olympics, where futsal was played for the very first time at the Olympic movement. And the report that was generated was extremely favorable to the continuation of futsal in the Olympic movement. But it was a tremendous success by the event managers, whether it be the LOC, IOC, or even FIFA when it came to the sport being played. The excitement generated was second to none, noting that, yes, we know it's Argentina, a football rich, a football passionate country, but nevertheless, from an event management standpoint and from spectator involvement and engagement, the sport certainly created a good enough platform to be heard and to be seen. So I must agree with you when it comes to getting futsal, more female futsal tournaments globally, whether it be FIFA or AMF, it needs to be done. It certainly, definitely needs to be done. So with that said, NICOLA, any closing remarks from you when it comes to you, NICOLA ZAMMIT, you, NICOLA, as regards to tours and events manager at AFA, and you as regards to our woman in futsal, celebrating you on this day in your history?
Well, thank you firstly, thank you very much for having me on your show. It's been great. And I hope that even if we're getting out to the smaller communities and somebody sitting out there is watching and wants to take up the sport now, whether they be male or female or whether they want to volunteer or anything like that, we wouldn't be where we are in Australian futsal at the moment without our help and support of everybody that helps us along, whether they be our volunteers or just filling up the water bottles for the kids playing. We're where we are because of all the support that we get here in Australia, and we're thankful for that. We love our supporters and we love our volunteers and our coaches, and it's kind of like a bit of a family atmosphere as well. So I just want to say thank you to all of those people that help and support us along the way, and we hope to be able to go to Trinidad and Tobago very, very soon. That will be amazing, and thanks again for having me on today.
NICOLA, it has been a pleasure. And I want to say thank you very much for your resilience and your patience, even with the technological challenges we had at the beginning. But I must say that we really and truly continue to pass the ball between each other and have a lot of touches to be able to enjoy the game that we love, which is futsal. And I want to again say thank you for the sacrifice you made in waking up so early on a Monday, God-forsaken Monday, to be able to spend time with us. And we want to say, send our blessings to your entire staff, to your entire organization, the Australian Futsal Association, and definitely we'll be in contact with you further. And I hope on a more formidable and a more relaxed environment to be able to keep spreading the gospel of futsal, and definitely look out for an invitation letter from us so that we can bring you all across to beautiful Trinidad and Tobago and also the rest of the Caribbean. So have a great week ahead, NICOLA, and all of God's richest blessings to you and yours.
Thank you very much, and good luck with everything. Talk to you soon.
Thanks again. Cheers. Bye-bye. So that was NICOLA ZAMMIT, who sacrificed her time to be with us on another episode of Futsal 868 Corner Talks, part 2 of Women in Futsal, as we celebrate International Women's Day. Continuation of said, I must say. I'm noting that we're not going to celebrate women only just one time, but also throughout. With that being said, we want you to be able to be a part of our Futsal 86 Virtual Race Challenge. Just as with NICOLA is in Australia, you can do it anywhere, anytime. How, you ask? Take a look. Ken and Phil will tell you some more. I really hope that you understood what Ken and Phil was saying and how simple it is. 5 simple steps to registering for the virtual. It's for a great cause. It is to be able to address and stop domestic violence against women, or at least assist through our partner in charge against domestic violence, who part proceeds will definitely go towards their work and to continuation of their work when it comes to this issue, societal issue that we are going through. So as always, I want to say thank you very much for joining us for another program of 868, and we wish you and yours a great and blessed week ahead. Noting as always, you know how we end the show. It is keeping our feet, not just foot, our feet on the neck of racism. So I'm your host, Geoffrey Edwards, wishing you a great and blessed week ahead. See you soon.
It is our responsibility to commit to making a positive difference in our It is our responsibility to commit to making a positive difference in our society.
Listen, breathe,
and be a standing voice against discrimination
and injustices. I am Yannick Quintal.
I am Joash Webb.
I am Neil Pro.
I am Kevin Usman.
I am Safia Sylvester, and racism
ends
with me.